Hello everyone, I'm Dan Philgreen, and this is Shell Point Today for Monday, March 2nd. On today's show, we'll see a unique form of embroidery that incorporates one of the great natural resources of our area, shells. We'll also take a look at the day respite program at the Arbor. But first, now is the time to start working on your act for the 2015 Variety Show. The theme this year is Summer Memories, and it's sure to be a delightful trip down memory lane. Acts are encouraged to sign up as a group or as an individual to sing a song, read a poem, act out a skit, or any other theatrical idea that reminds you of the hazy, lazy days of summer. Skits will be limited to 4 minutes of stage fame each. If this sounds like fun to you, give Program Coordinator Caitlin Van Scoy a call at 454-2057. Starting tomorrow and every Tuesday in March, Fitness Supervisor Michelle Smith will lead a program called Living Healthy. It will have guest speakers and discussion focusing on your health and fitness goals, staying motivated, and more. Living Healthy starts tomorrow at 11:45 in the Osprey Room on the island. Now, Terry Kolath is here with Susan Ross to give you a preview of the upcoming Academy class called Shell Pictures.
Hello, I'm Terry Kolath. I'm here today with Susan Ross. She is going to come to Shell Point and provide a class called Shell Pictures. I'd like to introduce her to you. Susan, thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much, Terry.
Now, if someone was not involved in your sit and stitch workshop to look at embroidery and various stitching skills that you could use with shells to go on and do wonderful things, this is another opportunity to work with shells, maybe using some skills you learned in the first class or that you already have.
Yes.
And what can we do with shells?
Well, in doing my shell pictures, what I have found that I've done is I've incorporated not just bits of mylar or materials that could be used in fly tying classes. I have some of that from my son. I've used beads and bits of additional materials, even such things as, it sounds ridiculous, but, and I have it here, icicles from Christmas time. That form of thread or unique materials can be applied to add sparkle and depth to the pictures that you might have hoped to create when you were sitting in the sit and stitch. I've spent a little bit more time in looking at color when I set down my shells on top of canvases or pieces of silk that I have. And I like to show people how they can randomly build their own designs with starfish and bits of shells. I have all of that. But people may have other additional interesting things that they want to add to a canvas, something that has some sentimental value to it too. Yeah. And what I try to do is show them how they can create contrast by using various kinds of material. Simple stitches like French knots done with different materials create different effects. Some of them look like bubbles. Some of them are just real sparkle and shine. And that's my goal, is to help people pull all of this technique together to create a whole nother concept in terms of art.
And you do it beautifully. And we spoke in another interview about your sit and stitch class, about how you use your eye, your artistic eye. And you're coming from upstate New York and seeing the beauty of our water and the shells, a way to maybe even kind of replicate or create the kind of feeling that you're snorkeling above all of this.
Yes.
And you found it, and how beautiful it is, and how to recreate that with your own pieces of fabric and threads and shells.
I used to spend, when I first started this, I used to spend a lot of time in planning my design with shells, but I found if you look at the shoreline, many of these things are just scattered there, but the beauty is still there. The array of texture and the calming color has such an effect on us, so that I now realize that just start it, just get into it and do it, and it almost takes on a life of its own, and it tends to create itself.
It does, and if you get this technique going, I mean, we have people who bead, we have people who sew, we have textile artists here, we have fine artists, we have crafts people. Just seeing a new way to do something with your fabric and thinking, what if I also looked at this as being an underwater? And so they're going to go away from this shell picture program, which is a 2-hour program, with something that could be framed.
Yes.
Just like this.
Absolutely.
And you can tell by the few samples that you have here for us, you'll be bringing many more to class so people can see, that just the thought of varying the color and varying the objects makes a huge difference. And they're small, but beautiful.
Portable, easy.
Yeah.
Easy to handle, easy to transport, easy to do, even if you're sitting waiting for an appointment. I've done that, taken them with me in the car.
Yeah.
And I can't believe how quickly time goes by. But I also can't believe what I've been able to create. And because you develop a freedom, you find that you can move very quickly through this. This is not a sort of thing where you have to study it and weigh everything that you do. It will just begin to happen. The more freedom you give yourself, the easier a time you'll have, and the more it will become enjoyable. You'll find yourself looking at fiber in a whole other way, and fabric as a new form of art.
And we love in the Academy to have different ideas for our residents because they bring such a wealth of creative abilities and experiences. And here's a new way you could look at shawls or fabric or a different kind of stitch. Or if you've embroidered but you don't want to continue to do only embroidery, you want to use those skills to create something else.
Absolutely.
So 2 hours. This is just amazing. And we're so grateful that you are on Sanibel for the winter so that we can experience you in this program. Won't you consider joining us? And it's a 2-hour program, and our instructor, Susan, and your kit will be bringing pretty much everything you need to create a shell picture worthy of framing.
The Day Respite program at the Arbor got off to a great start last year and has proved to be a great benefit to folks who are caring for a loved one. Today, our RN manager, Stacey Daniels, is here to talk with Rita Southern about this great new option at Shell Point.
Hi, I'm Rita Southern, Director of Assisted Living here at Shell Point. We're so excited to be celebrating the launch of our Adult Day Respite program at the Arbor. Stacey Daniels Datillo is joining me this morning to talk a little bit about how the program's going and what caregivers can expect of this program. Welcome, Stacey.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Talk a little bit, Stacey, about your thoughts on the program. What do you expect from the program?
You know, I am so excited that we have developed this Respite Day program for our residents here at Shell Point. I think that it is going to provide such a wonderful island of respite for those caregivers who are out there who may be experiencing some caregiver stress, some desperate need for some time away to take care of just the basic things like a doctor's appointment or to go to the grocery store or even just to have an afternoon of time to take a nap. I think that it's so important that that as a caregiver that we remember that in order to be a good caregiver that we have to take care of ourselves.
As you obviously a nurse, and your heart is really, I think, in wellness and having people make the best of their life. What are we going to be able to offer caregivers in the way of care for their loved one?
Well, I think the nuts and bolts of our respite program is really that we are going to offer a program designed to give oversight to someone that maybe needs to have someone spending more one-on-one time. We're going to have activities available that is in a structured environment that has a routine, which is incredibly important to those of our residents that maybe have a little bit of memory impairment happening, or maybe have some health issues that are taking place that require just a little bit more oversight. There'll be meals offered as well, so that their loved one who needs that day of respite can feel rest assured that when they drop their spouse off to spend the day with us, that a healthy, nutritious, and really flavorful meal is offered here at the Arbor. Also, that we have our staff that is going to provide patient and good-natured oversight and accompaniment to activities, and having a structured program that will keep that person engaged and can meet their individual needs in a program that's not overwhelming.
I think that's a nice balance. That's an important balance between stimulation, participation, and activity. Yeah, activity and rest.
Got to have a little bit of downtime too.
when we think about folks that are going to be participating in the program, some of them have medical needs, some of them have care needs. How are we equipped to be able to handle those?
Well, we have oversight by our licensed nursing staff here, so that if we have a participant who's coming in who maybe needs to have medication management, administration, if they're experiencing any type of a health issue, there is licensed staff that can step in to provide care as needed.
As you think, Stacey, about those caregivers, share with our audience a little bit of your perspective on what this program can mean to them.
You know, to all of you who are listening out there, I would really encourage you to seriously consider giving yourself the gift of time. You know, time is such a finite thing. It doesn't go on forever. And if you are experiencing, weight loss, weight gain, insomnia, or sleeping too much, not finding pleasure in the things that you used to find pleasure in because your sole focus and your sole purpose has now become the care of someone else, you can lose your individuality and what makes you a special person. And when you lose that, you really are not as effective in the role of a caregiver as you could be and that you desire to be. And so I just really encourage you to consider, again, giving yourself that gift of time, allowing us to spend a few hours with your loved one. In our very homey environment, we've got a warm and lovely place that you can feel safe and feel good about, having them come spend time with us in, and just come and see and check us out. Let us prove it to you.
So if you're a caregiver and you want to take Stacey up on her offer, call us at the Arbor at 454-2292, and we'll be happy to provide you with more information about our day respite program at the Arbor.
And now let's cover all of Monday's happenings, Academy news, menus, and Village Church connections. Right after this word from David Hauenstein with a preview of his radio show on Channel 12, Listening to the Words.
Josie spread the quilt onto the bed to admire its colors. Her capable hands lingered over its varied fabrics and a rendition of her parents' nearby farm. Those are the opening lines of the first story on this week's edition of Listening to the Words. Here are the opening words to some of the show's other stories. When the fire chief came to evacuate our neighborhood, sometimes on a warm summer evening, lying on cool, soft grass on a warm, breezy, sunny day. At the homestead, my father sat upon the sturdy steps of the open porch. On County Road 200 West, the white house with the green roof shelters the people well. Grandpa, did I hear right? You tried out for a play at the community theater on Sanibel? David Hauenstein inviting you to listen and be drawn under the spell of this week's Listening to the Words at the top and bottom of the hour, all 7 days this week on Shell Point Channel 12. Try it. You'll like it.
Hello and welcome to the Happening segment of Shell Point TV. I'm Caitlin Van Scoy and this is Bev Chanley, and we're going to let you know today's activities. Today is activity sign-up day, so make sure you head on down to either service desk to sign up for your chosen activities. We're going to start the day off at 8 a.m. with men's match play doubles tennis at the Woodlands Tennis Courts. And the mobile mammography will be here from 8 to 5 today at the Village Church. 8:45 is the time for virtual bowling in the Resident Activity Center. And at 9:15 we have billiards at the Resident Activity Center. The Lollygaggers Paddlers will be heading out at 9:15. You meet at the kayak storage. 9:15 there's pottery with instruction available in the pottery studio down in the Island Tunnel. At 10 a.m. we have men's match play doubles tennis at the Woodlands Tennis Courts. And also at 10 a.m. the Susie Q heads out to Matanzas on the Bay, and you do need to sign up for that. The Parkinson's Enrichment Group will be meeting at 10:15. 10:30 the Disciples Men's Study Group will be in the game room of the Woodlands. And at 10:45, we have table tennis. It's a clinic down in the Tarpon Room. 11:30, we have a Health Connections class, Agility and Flexibility in the Health Club. It's currently full. Here's Bev for our afternoon lineup.
Thank you, Caitlin. At 12 o'clock today, we'll have Mahjong. That's played in the Sable Room down at the Woodlands. 1:15, we have Advanced Table Tennis in the Tarpon Room. Also at 1:15, we have Samba, which is a card game. That's held in the Resident Activity Center. And we also have a tone chimes practice in the Osprey Room at 1:15. From 1:30 to 3:30, our model train room will be open down in the tunnel for tours. A Health Connections class entitled Balance and Mobility Training Level 1 will be held at 1:45 in the Health Club. At 2 o'clock, the Beady-Eyed Bead Club will be in the Oak Room of the Woodlands. And we have another 3 o'clock Health Connections class, Pilates Stretch. That's down in the Health Club. The Shell Point Singers will be rehearsing in the choir room at the Village Church at 3:15. And there'll be another Health Connections class at 3:30, Aqua Agility and Conditioning. That one's at the new LifeQuest Aquatic Center. Pickleball will be played at the pickleball court at 4 o'clock. And then at 5:30, don't forget, we have the singles table at the Crystal going on at the Crystal Dining Room. If you like duplicate bridge, the game starts at 6:30 at the game room of the Woodlands. And our last activity for Monday is 7 o'clock with square dancing. That's in the Health Club, and that's currently full. Well, we're so glad you joined us here today, and we will be back here again tomorrow.
Hi, I'm Terry Koleth with your Academy information from Monday, March 2nd. At 10:15, iPhone's Siri will begin in the Manatee Room of the Island for those who have signed up. At 10:15, Facebook Basics on tablets will begin in the Technology Teaching Center. Again, sign up is required. At 10:30, Anatomy of Words will take place in the Oak Room of the Woodlands, and all are welcome. At 1:15, we start from shoebox to spreadsheets in the Technology Teaching Center. Sign up is required. I'd like to tell you about some new classes coming tomorrow. We begin Shell Pictures with our guest artist instructor, Susan Ross. And Penny Modridge of Nautilus will teach an iPad class, Got One, Now What? Bruce Findlay of Sundial will teach an iPad class, What's in the Air?
Menus for Monday. In the Crystal Room, the Crystal Platter is braised beef with roasted turnips and roasted Yukon Gold potatoes. The dinner special is All Home Cooking Night for $11.95, and the soup of the day is beef noodle. In the Island Cafe for lunch, the special is a mile-high corned beef sandwich with coleslaw for $7.25. The dinner special is tilapia with spinach and tomatoes over rice pilaf for $8.25. And the Palm Grill is closed on Mondays. All menus are available 24 hours a day at www.shellpoint.net.
Welcome to Village Church Connections. I'm David Pavey, an assistant pastor. Abraham wore a crown. What do I mean? Well, not a real crown with precious stones and diamonds, obviously. So let me explain. There's a verse in the Bible that caught my attention some time ago. In the book of Proverbs, chapter 17 and verse 6, to be precise, King Solomon wrote, "Children's children are a crown to the aged." Put another way, grandchildren are a crown to seniors. So let me start again. Abraham had a crown. His name was Jacob. Abraham's son Isaac had a crown. His name was Joseph. Isaac's son Jacob had a crown. In fact, he had two. Their names were Ephraim and Manasseh. When Abraham died at 175 years of age, his son Isaac was 75. And Isaac's son Jacob was 15. So, Jacob lived under the influence of his godly grandpa for 15 years. Now, picture little Jacob sitting on his grandfather's knee and saying to Abraham, "Grandpa, tell me a story. Tell me how you rescued Uncle Lot. Tell me why my Uncle Ishmael left home. Tell me how you felt on Mount Moriah when my dad asked you where you would find a lamb for the sacrifice. And how happy you were when God provided a ram so my dad would not have to die. Tell me a story. So Jacob became a crown to his grandfather. He became a crown to his father's father, his pride and joy, living proof that he, Abraham, hadn't failed as a father, and that his influence would continue through more than one generation. But one day Abraham died, and eventually so did Isaac. They were both buried in the cave of Machpelah in Hebron. Yet the story continues because Jacob himself had a son named Joseph. And in the fullness of time, Joseph, now the prime minister of Egypt, had twin crowns named Ephraim and Manasseh. So Jacob, grandson of Abraham, became a grandfather in his own right. And in God's goodness, Jacob lived nearby his grandsons for the last 17 years of his life before he died at the ripe old age of 147. So, Joseph's sons lived under his influence as grandfather, just as Jacob had lived under his grandfather Abraham's. Perhaps they asked old Jacob why he left home as a young man and went to live with Uncle Laban in Mesopotamia. Perhaps they asked old Jacob how he felt when he thought that his son Joseph had been killed by wild animals, and how he felt years later when he learned his son Joseph was now the prime minister of Egypt. Ephraim and his brother Manasseh became crowns then for Jacob in his sunset years. Feel the emotion as Jacob blessed his grandsons and prayed over them, crossing his hands. May the God before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked faithfully, may he bless these boys. May God bless these boys. My father and I lived on different continents for many years. He would write to me often in those days when men still wrote letters. After the birth of our two sons, Alan and John, my father often quoted old Jacob when he wrote to me. May God bless these boys. Those boys were his crown. One day the value of grandchildren came over me in a new way. Our family of 4 was based in Chicagoland at the time, and my parents, who were touching 70 years of age, made their first visit from England to us in the United States. My father had just preached as a guest preacher in our church. Gaining new appreciation for the heart and for the example of his grandpa, before we left the church, my 14-year-old son put his arm around his grandpa's neck. He looked into his face and he said, "Grandpa, I'm proud of you." My dad wore a crown from that day on. Perhaps your father wore a crown too. Perhaps you will wear one someday if you don't already. But that's the kind of crown you can't buy with money. And thank you for tuning in to Village Church Connections.
We're glad you joined us for today's show. Tune in again tomorrow when we'll get a preview of the Academy class on Masters Paintings. And we'll take an impromptu stroll through the Island Tunnel to see what goes on down there on a typical afternoon. Until then, this is Shell Point Today for Monday, March 2nd. I'm Dan Filgreen, and for all of us here at Shell Point TV, we hope you have a great day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.